Welcome to the podcast. Today, we are going to be doing podcast completely alone, solely because of the whole situation that's going around right now with the coronavirus. We obviously have to all kind of do our part to have social distancing and keep everybody safe. And again, I know it's a little annoying. I'm frustrated too. A lot of stuff is slowed down. A lot of business is slowed down. So I'm going to be here and talk about basically how the economy is getting affected, how cryptocurrencies are getting affected, how my general experience has been so far. And I know a lot of you guys at home are stuck, worried, and confused on what's going on. Some people in situations are doing much worse than others. Hopefully, most of you guys have jobs that are pretty secure and they are going to be paying you, or you're going to be getting unemployment to kind of sustain your income. A lot of individuals, especially in the business world, not as fortunate in this situation, especially myself as well, have experienced quite a hit in certain aspects of my business. But in the crypto side, for example, we've seen a boom in sales because people are looking for all their alternatives. So to start talking about how bad it's getting, right now we're at 334,000 people globally that have been infected already. Yes, 97,000 have been, resolved and have been cured, but 14,000, almost 15,000 people have died from it. That is not a rate that is acceptable in my opinion. It is way too high. It is way too infectious and very similar to this, Spanish flu. And obviously we have the medical capabilities to save a lot of people and to help. But what I noticed, which I didn't expect when I first started learning or started, hearing about the coronavirus like everybody else and, doing your research and asking medical professionals what their thoughts were. One thing that I didn't take into consideration is it is not the danger of the virus itself. It is the danger of our medical system collapsing that really, really puts the fear in me. As we can see in Italy, China was able to pull up hospitals immediately and develop the infrastructure to actually support the growing number of infected patients. But as Italy's case with the older population and don't have the actual infrastructure to manufacture and actually put up hospitals in 3 days, which is an extraordinary job by China, they're rejecting patients from actually getting care. And that is just unreal. I mean, when we first talked about the virus itself, our understanding was if you have life support, if you get proper medical care, even at a really old age, it would take very, very serious cased individual with a lot of preconditions of health hazard, like let's say asthma, with cancer, with certain aspects of health that were already in compromise, to put them in a position where the coronavirus would be fatal. But then in Italy, we're noticing is that's not the case. Even people that would easily fight off the coronavirus with proper medical attention, unfortunately, are not receiving proper medical attention, and that's solely because there's so many cases that they have to start now choosing who gets to be on life support and who doesn't, which is very, very terrifying coming from, an era where, that's second nature to us. If you, especially as a Canadian too, you're sick, you're ill, you have the hospitals, you have medical attention at your front door at any moment. So the fact that you could be sick and or a loved one be sick and you actually walk into the hospital and they tell you, look, unfortunately, just go home and hopefully you survive is a very, very terrifying thought. So my one piece of advice would definitely be, I know it's hard not to go out. I know it's hard not to see friends. And trust me, it's hard for me as well. I'm a pretty social person. I do like to go out all the time. I'm not one to stay home ever. If I have 1 second, I'm not doing something, I'm doing something else. I'm going to find a trip, a plan. But do your part, because it's not about you. You going out and you spreading the virus, might be a cause to a fatality. You might be fine. You might get sick for 2 weeks and recover. Some people can get the virus and recover no problem. Probably someone at my age and my health, I'm going to recover pretty easily. But if I bring home a virus and give it to my grandfather, for example, he's going to die from that. And you don't want to be the cause of someone's death because you were just irresponsible or you wanted to go out one night with friends, or you're bored at home because it's already been 3 days in quarantine and you can't handle it anymore. There's people around the world that have been living like this for years and years. So I know we have a very first world spoiled mentality, and we think that we everything is given to us. We always have everything at our disposal, but we don't. And we should be very careful on what we do now. This is a time where we're getting tested, and we're seriously getting tested. So I hope everyone's doing their part and being safe. And if you do have to go out again, wear masks, wear gloves if you can find them. If you can't, hand sanitize. Stay as far away from people as possible. One of the fundamental things people, I think, tend to forget is it is an airborne virus, and you can get it from, let's say, someone sneezing or coughing, and it lingers in the air, and you can get that into your lungs. You just need to get the virus into your body, in through your airways, and it'll infect you. But the one thing is that a lot of people don't forget that if you touch a doorknob and the virus is sitting there, and it could sit there for a couple of days, and you bring it back to your face and you touch your face, you can get infected that way. So if there's not too many people around and you don't have a mask, it's fine. More importantly is where your hands get touched and what comes back to you. So more people are getting infected by probably touch more than getting it through the air. Now, if you're obviously in a crowded space, like a cruise ship, a plane, in a room full of people, you're obviously, if one person's sick, you're likely to breathe that virus in and get it infected that way. But if you're being cautious and you don't have a mask and you're not going to crowded places, just keep your hands clean, always sanitize. Like, I went to the bank, I was in a mask and I was in gloves, and I even sanitized the gloves before taking it off and sanitized my hands right after, disposing of the gloves just in case. Not worth taking that risk, especially when people have been caught in the areas that I'm in with the virus. So it's definitely not worth the risk to get infected and bring that home and cause that kind of, grief in the family. So as I'm going to point out here, U.S., honestly, I don't know why. I thought the U.S. would be more stringent with their rules and cutting down, but 8,000 new cases is a substantial number, and they really need to work on being more strict with the population, the same way Spain and Italy. I have friends in Spain right now, and they're letting me know that actually one of my friends lives in a private residence, and it's kind of closed off. And he actually went out a few days ago. I think that was March. I'll give you the exact date so kind of corresponding. I think it was March 19, and they were just starting to do the shutdowns, I believe, on the 17, 18 in Spain. And he walked out and walked onto the beach, and the police actually came and warned them that he would be fined the next time he is found outside. 5,000 euros, I believe, is the fine right now. So you have to go back into his house. And now the security guards at the private residence are not even letting people go outside unless you're walking your dog. You have a certain duration of time. You have to stay apart from people, walk your dog, and go back into the complex. So I know it sucks, but good for them for really enforcing those rules. Unfortunately, we have liberties here that we're so used to that it's kind of weird for someone to come out and say, you can't be outside, go back in, or you have a curfew, you got to be home by 10 o'clock. It almost feels surreal and like a movie or like a third world country that we can't comprehend being part of. So if we can just come together and do this properly, quickly, I think we can get over that hump and really make a difference. The same way, they're doing in China right now and lowering their case numbers, which is very impressive. I know they were taking measures that probably would not fly in these countries because we have too much freedom here. But we as a society have to personally take it on ourselves to do that instead of the government forcing us to stay indoors or locking us in. We need to take part and make this a social movement to help, save lives. Now, in regards to the economy, it's a tough one. A lot of people have been asking me and calling me, panicking, and what to do. And honestly, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I mean, I do know a little bit about crypto. I people say that I'm an expert in crypto. I don't know. I still think it's too new of an industry to even call anybody an expert in it. But I do my best to do the most research. Network enough to know what's going on in the industry. But the problem right now is, usually when an economy collapses or let's say the housing market's not doing well or the stock market's not doing well, crypto tends to have an opposite effect, just solely because people's fear in the traditional market, in the fiat and the banking infrastructures, tends to move people if into cryptocurrencies or alternative forms. Usually used to be traditionally gold and silver in kind of assets like that. Now there's an alternative investment pool, which is crypto, where people can put their money and have the assets held there. And I notice it a lot personally when my transactions go up, when people start calling me more. And as a general sense, I get like a kind of like a poll of what the general system, like the society in general is experiencing. And it's interesting. People are getting into crypto a little bit more now since the crisis started, and that is reflective of the price actually increasing in the last couple of days. But that initial drop, people were asking me, is what's going on? Why did crypto crash almost 40-something% in 24 hours? Now, the reason for that is in my opinion, again, there's no guarantee to what's going on. There were massive sell-offs, obviously, on the markets, and that drove the price down. But in my opinion, if I'm a large corporation or if I'm the banks, and if I'm someone with hundreds of millions and if not closer to billions of dollars worth of crypto, and I know there's a pandemic coming, I know that my businesses are going to close down, and we're going to hit a time where, if I want to keep my company afloat or if I want to keep the banks afloat, we're going to need to stimulate it, and we're going to have to take some losses. I personally would probably pull out of an investment such as crypto for that, in their perspective, right? That's an investment to them, and try to keep their businesses afloat and try to keep their companies afloat and try to keep the banks afloat. So, as you can see, the U.S. The Federal Reserve actually printed a substantial amount of money and trying to use any measures and lowering interest rates to zero, which is ridiculous, just to keep the economy afloat. So that's probably the reason why there was a massive sell-off and the price immediately dropped. But that to me is a good sign, and that shows that, and that's the reason why I bought up as much as I could. I couldn't buy as much as I wanted, solely because I do have businesses as well that are getting substantially affected, especially the jewelry industry, having stores that, you still have to pay rent, still have to pay employees, and you have so much overhead, monthly expenses for all these locations, and now you're stuck paying all this with zero income. It's absolutely absurd, and the government obviously needs to help businesses so that they don't go under. So obviously, I couldn't do as much as I wanted, but that's probably the most optimal time to have bought, because you see a massive sell-off by businesses trying to sustain their position in the economy, and whatever it could be. It's a wide range, so I can't specify who exactly was causing massive sell-offs. But in the crypto space, since it is still relatively new, it's not in the trillions of dollars. It's very possible that 5 or 6 large players can sell off enough to cause a panic. So that's probably what happened. But what we saw is society in general was still holding on to crypto, and we're still had that belief that if the economy is crumbling, crypto is going to be the thing to take over and actually keep going up. So we saw that price bounce right back up, and we're going to see it steadily growing. And especially if this virus takes longer to, let's say, resolve itself, and it could take, in my opinion, months. So if that's going to happen, we're going to see a lot of people struggling, and we're going to see crypto growing solely because people are going to be scared of how our economy is doing. And crypto, in my opinion, is a very good alternative to the traditional form of banking and the government's assets. I mean, in a sense of what to do with, because I had a lot of people asking what to do with stocks. And honestly, if you trust the companies and if you have your stocks placed in the right place, and, like, for example, I believe in Tesla and how they're going to perform, yes, it's going to be tough right now, but everything's going to go down. It's not like, well, you can move it from one place to the other and save yourself too much. Everyone's going to take a small hit, if not a large hit. And that's just something that's bound to happen, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you actually don't have a guarantee to get aid from the government or from a business, a large corporation that's going to keep paying you. So it's fine. We're all going to make it. It's not a big deal. Humanity always does. But if we all participate together and stay together and like keep our distance and entertain ourselves. I mean, whether it's doing a podcast, whether it's making a TikTok video, going on YouTube, playing video games. I mean, I am sometimes go on Discord with my friends and they're playing video games. I sometimes join in and it is just, we have the abilities nowadays to socialize from such distances and to have full-on engagement with people, whether it's video chat, whether it's as I said, gaming with each other. So it's not an impossibility. We can do it. It's just the matter of if 100 people are doing it right and there's this one idiot that decides, this is bullshit, I'm gonna go out and go to a party, or I'm gonna go out and go to bars are closed, but they go out into the public or go to parks and start meeting people or going to each other's houses and having large gatherings. It's going to cause problems because you might be safe, but what if an individual goes to a party and interacts with 100 people? That's another 100 people infected, with just one person being infected and not listening. So stay apart, keep your distance, guys, and we will go through it, even if it's a couple months. Okay, you're gonna change your life for a bit. I personally haven't experienced something like this myself, but I know my parents, coming from war zones, they've done this for years, being underground, having no electricity, having barely any food to eat, and just surviving. No schools, no nothing. So their stories growing up and their experience kind of guides you to understand that it is possible. You can survive. It's not a big deal. It's just for the people who don't have that experience that it's more difficult, because they have to adjust mentally to understand that this is something that we have to do, and it's something that is going to be done. It's not a joke, and it is something very serious. Outside of that, I do miss traveling. Unfortunately, that's a big one. And I'm gonna try to stay up to date on what's going on with news in the crypto space. There isn't much that's happening right now. A lot of stuff has slowed down. A lot of businesses are just kind of trying to put a pause on it. And hopefully businesses can survive, because honestly, unless the government comes in and steps in and helps businesses substantially, and I don't know if they can, I don't think they have the budget or the capabilities to do any of that, but they have to try as hard as they can, because if people start going under and declaring bankruptcy, forget the time of the virus. Let's say the virus takes 2 months to resolve itself, and until we quarantine enough people that we can start going back to the daily routines. That's nothing. It's going to take probably triple the time for our economy to bounce back to anywhere remotely to what it was before. That means people who have taken losses are going to build up debts. They're saying, okay, we're going to defer payments. We're going to pause rent for people. And first off, that's just residential. It's not businesses. So businesses are still paying and taking massive losses and taking on massive loans, unless they have a large reserve of capital that they can pay with, which still is technically a loss. A lot of people are going to be in debt, even more than they were before. I think it was a ridiculous percentage. I think the average American is around $400 over their living expenses. So basically, your $400 is going to dry up within weeks. If one shopping, just to stock up is going to dry you out. So it's going to be very hard for people to come back out of this, and we're not going to see any kind of flourish in the economy for some time. So I like the concept of what France and what Italy has done, and that is pause everything. I mean, payments, credit cards, mortgages, everything goes on pause, so that when you resume, yes, the banks will take a hit, the government will take a hit, but when you resume, everyone can kind of continue off where they were, and not feel a massive shift in the economy. Whereas if we are charging interest, we're charging payments, where the banks are not going to take as much of a hit, understandably, but the general population is, and it's going to take a very long time for them to get back on their feet. So I would much prefer if they put everything on pause and prevent people from getting into situations where they're not going to be able to get out of. And Justin Trudeau coming out and saying that they're putting a $1 billion plan to help, it's nothing. It is really, really nothing. And you're not going to see a dent of it. I mean, they came out and said that they're going to give businesses 10% of the employee's salary back from their taxes. So you're basically going to pay a little less taxes, 10% of your salary. So businesses that are paying hundreds of employees to keep working. And let's not say that they're mega corporations making millions. Let's just say a small business like a jewelry business like mine. When you're paying all those employee salaries, plus you're paying rent, and they're only giving you 10% back just for that salary, is nothing. It literally does nothing to help you. They have to either compensate the employees completely. They either have to terminate rents, find alternative ways to really reduce the stress on businesses. But, unfortunately, I'm not blaming them completely. They are definitely not prepared for anything like this. And that's another problem. Our governments and our society is definitely not prepared for something like this. We prepare for war all the time. We have contingencies in place for all kinds of stuff in humans killing each other, but any kind of virus coming and infecting the general population and becoming a pandemic, we have no structure in place for this. And I thought SARS would have been a good indication that we weren't prepared, and they thought they had done enough measures to control it, but still, it is not enough. We spent trillions and trillions of dollars on military and making sure we have defense mechanisms for that, but we do not have the defense mechanisms up for, bioweapons. Technically, this could be a weapon. It's not just it doesn't necessarily need to be a natural occurrence. It could be, man-made and meant to harm a country or harm the world. So we have to start preparing better for stuff like this. And our economy, obviously, we're going to see where it goes. I'm going to try to stay up to date on it and figure out what's going to happen next, because a lot of stuff is going to start to shift. And again, I'm hopeful for cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology in general, because it was the birth of blockchain in 2008 when we had the economic crisis. So we're definitely going to see one probably worse than 2008. So we're going to see a massive expansion in the blockchain industry, but we're not going to see that yet. I mean, the crypto price, Bitcoin's price is going to go up. Crypto in general is going to go up. But where you're going to see the big boom is after the economy adjusts and after everything recorrects, we're going to see people leaning towards an alternative again. Because the first time, Bitcoin was an alternative. Now we're going to realize, okay, our economy is not doing well. Like Lebanon recently went into bankruptcy, and think about that for a second. A country going into bankruptcy, it is possible. Basically means originally they were stopping people from pulling more than $100 out of the bank account at a certain interval of time. And then they got to a point where they just couldn't sustain it anymore. So they declared bankruptcy. That means any money you had in your accounts in Lebanon, gone. All your money, all your wealth is gone. Unless you have gold or silver or diamonds or something other than that, or crypto, you have nothing left. So again, it is possible, and a lot of people are going to start to realize that is a very flawed system we have, and maybe being in a new form of technology, in a cryptocurrency where it's decentralized and it's not controlled by an individual nation, has a lot more positives than negatives. So hopefully we see that boom. Hopefully we see the industry grow even more than it has, because it has been a very, very rapidly growing industry. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen. I really pray for all those people that are struggling with family members or themselves suffering from the virus, but stay strong, and everyone who has to play their part. And I hope you guys all pay attention and play your part and stay safe, stay at home, and don't cause any more grief than we're already having. So stay at home, and good luck, everyone.